Welcome, Father Patrick Desbois. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to start with a few words?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a very special day because yesterday 2 men began to shoot to the Jewish community in Sydney, and now we learn that they were father and son, so from the same family, ready to die for killing. And I would say we discovered also that we were connected to ISIS. And so I'm not surprised at all because we work against ISIS in Iraq since 11 years. We rescue their victims, women and children who have been enslaved. But it's terrible because there is no safe place. We don't know who will be the next. So we cannot even anticipate. So I hate the media who say, oh, well, how surprising it is. No, it's not surprising because ISIS is not dead. And it's like an underground organization, very proactive. So unfortunately, that's the result also of the politics of the country with very open mind to all the manifestation were after 7th of October. So it's to repeat that there is no innocent slogan against the Jews. We pass easily from a slogan to a crime. And unfortunately, so many people died yesterday for nothing, only because this guy wanted to kill Jews.
Thank you so much. So let's start by, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us about where you're from and what your work focuses on, please.
First, I am a French Catholic priest. I built this organization called Yahad-In Unum. Yahad means together in Hebrew and in Unum together in Latin. And since 20 years, we have investigating thousands of, say, of killing sites by the Einsatzgruppen in the ex-Soviet Union. We have interviewed nearly 10,000 people present at the crimes, not the Jews, but neighbors. And after we did the same in Guatemala for the Conflicto Armado. And since 11 years, we do the same in Iraq about ISIS. We are, I would say, specialists. It's a strange specialty about mass shootings, criminal mass shootings.
That's such a hard work. I know you're famous, a little bit famous, let's say, in Israel because you work with the Yazidim. And
Yeah.
we know that a few months ago, IDF saved a Yazid slave from Gaza. Could you tell us a little bit how did that come to be? We know that the Yazid massacre was in 2014. How does a slave ends up in Gaza actually?
Complicated. ISIS began to enter in the territory of the Yazidi in 2014, and they say they will enslave them. So they shot all the men who refused to convert to Islam. They stole all the babies that they gave to families in Iraq, in Syria, in Turkey, or anywhere. And they brainwashed the teenagers to train them as terrorists. So actually, we try to rescue people when they escape. It's a long job with specialists, with psychologists, with nannies, with training, because they forgot their name, they forgot their religion, they forgot their language. They speak Arabic if they have been sold to an Arab family, they speak English if they have been sold to an American family, etc. And so I saw the girl was in 2015. We interviewed 5 girls who have been sold to Palestinians from Gaza, and nobody was interested in the results. I tried to contact authorities. They told me we are not interested because ISIS is not attacking Israel. So it was a big mistake. And when I saw that the girl was in Gaza, I was not at all surprised because there is a communication between Hamas and ISIS. ISIS is in Sinai, so not far. I can tell you, I found back the girl. I interviewed the girl in Iraq. It was not easy at all because this girl has been a long time in ISIS and in Hamas. And I would say he was still ISIS. And so she didn't want to speak. It's the worst interview I did among 450. She said, I cannot say anything, etc., etc. But I saw between the lines that she was careful because she's still ISIS. Don't forget, when you have been enslaved during 11 years, forced to pray, forced to make Ramadan, beaten, raped, etc., etc. So suddenly, many girls choose to be ISIS to escape the slavery.
So, for those of us who don't know a lot about ISIS, could you explain from your perspective who they are and what they do?
ISIS, was an initiative of different men. The most well-known was Abu Bakr Baghdadi, who suddenly in Mosul spoke publicly in the mosque and say he brings back the caliphate. So all the line of ISIS is to pretend to bring back the time of Muhammad for now. So to do everything that it did. Of course, it's one of the school of terrorists. And so they took a lot of territory in Iraq and Syria in 2014-15, and they began to make a lot of attacks everywhere against many countries, including France. And so now it's not the same situation because the coalition bombed them, destroyed their headquarters, and now they rebuild themselves as an underground organization, mainly in Syria. And so it's more complicated today because they are not open. They also make attacks in Israel, private attacks that we saw in the news during the last year. So they are not visible, and people. I think the problem is that people forget them, and it's very dangerous. It's one of the terrorist organizations. You must know that people pass from a terrorist organization to another one. By example, we interview a woman. She was sold to a very important ISIS man in Raqqa. But before he was Al Qaeda, he was Al Qaeda in Egypt. He stole the money of Al Qaeda and he went to see Baghdadi and he began to be a big boss in ISIS. So you can see them in Al Nusra, passing to ISIS, passing to Hamas. Uh, it's not a closed box. Terrorist organizations are not homogeneous. You can pass from a place to another one. But today, they are very violent. Recently, they made an attack in Syria and they killed two Americans. But you see, it pops in the news, say, oh, Americans have been attacked in Syria, etc., and it disappears because there's a kind of fashion. People now speak about Hamas, Gaza, that's it, like if the rest was not existing, but it's not true. Even in Gaza, there are many terrorist organizations.
That is so interesting that you say that because we read the report of terrorists in suits. You know this report from 2019, and they talk about how BDS has a lot of terror organization. Like you said, it's not a closed box. Okay, so we have people from Hamas actually running different high position inside the BDS, etc. What do you think about that?
We have an imagination that terrorist organizations are like a closed organization, like political party, and that's true. But you could see in Syria people passing from Al Nusra, who is connected to Al Qaeda, to ISIS, or the opposite. So, and of course, all these groups are anti-Israel because they say that the Jews occupy the land of Palestine. They are kuffar. They are not believers. So, unfortunately, all these groups legitimate the killing of Jews. It's what happened in the 7th of October. And behind that ideology is to declassify the Jews, to say, no, they are not religious, they are kuffar. Kuffar, it means non-believer. And it opens the box of Pandora for terrorist organization. If you are classified as kuffar, everything is legal. Legal to rape the women, legal to take the babies, legal to burn people in their houses. When I saw the 7th of October, the first news in the TV, I say, oh, it's like ISIS. And so exactly the same methodology because it's the same law.
Yeah, I also had the same thought. This is exactly like the Yazid in 2014. And then we saw the same for the Druze in Syria. So it's just one attack after the other.
Yeah, the problem of these organizations is that, by example, before the Christians were not kuffar, and suddenly ISIS in their paper, the newspaper, they published a document showing Vatican with the flag of ISIS. So after that, they declare the Christian kuffar. So even when they killed the priest in France, he argued, he said, I'm not against you. Yes, you are kuffar. Why you are kuffar? Because you support the bombing of the coalition. So it's a vision who makes not only legal, but to makes a duty to kill the kuffar. It's why that was the worst for me for the 7th of October. It was the same day in many Islamic capitals. There was a big party. Uh, don't forget that in Kabul, but in Pakistan, but in Iran, it was a big party because to succeed to kill more than 1,000 Jews in one day is like the dream. And so it was not only a local war, it was a very difficult step. And I will say, unfortunately, Hamas got an international reputation in terrorist organization for his success, even if now he has lost everything. He will stay forever like a good step. And so we have to be conscious of that because, of course, when people see the reaction, they will see the reaction in Washington, in Paris, in Berlin, etc. But if you travel the 8th of October in the Islamic country, you will see another landscape.
And how would you explain that to people in France, for example? We in Marseille, my family, we live in Marseille, in the south of France. So you have every week the huge manifestations. Allegedly, they're just promoting Free Palestine, but we know from the graffiti on the wall, there's a graffiti of a terrorist with it's written Intifada everywhere, and we see the posters and everything that's around it, and we know that this is a militant expression of the same movement. So for us, when we see demonstration, we don't feel safe. But mayor of Marseille, they think this is democracy. So how do you bridge that gap? Do you see what I'm saying?
Problem is that this movement, Free Palestine, I'm not sure they are pro-Palestinian. Because, when you support a country, you raise money, you buy medicine, you buy food, you send something to help. And I don't see these people making a lot of luggage and going at the border to give everything. It's not a movement. My question as well, because I work in Iraq and Syria, and Bashar made disappear 500,000 people. Disappear, it means they are dead. And you don't see free Syria. You don't see free Syria anywhere. Actually, in Yemen, actually in Sudan, but you don't see free Sudan. It's only one country. So I say that because I work in Guatemala. We opened the first Holocaust Museum in Guatemala, and I was in Guatemala 2 weeks ago, and suddenly on the walls in Guatemala City, in Central America, it was a lot of flyers, Free Palestine. But I'm sure half the population doesn't even know where Palestine is on the map. So, and you imagine in Guatemala where some villages are starving, and that it was not free Guatemala. So I think, unfortunately, and I'm very conscious because the church participated in that during 2,000 years. We accuse the Jews to have been killing God. But now the new accusation in fashion is they are a country making genocide. And so I think, unfortunately, this accusation will stick with the Jewish people for a long time and legitimate any violence. Because, of course, you can, even me, as you know, an academic from Lyon published a list of 20 people who are accused to make a genocide, and I am in the list. I am the number 5. So I wonder what I have to be in that list. I never did anything against the Palestinians. And even I made travel. I have been in Gaza, celebrating a Catholic wedding in Gaza a long time ago. And so I always this question, are they pro-Palestinian or not? What do they do concretely? Do they help Palestinians in France? Do they support families? Do they give to the poor? Or and I have always this question: if there were no Jew in Israel, would they care for the Palestinians? Because it's strange, because many Palestinians are in Lebanon and they don't claim free Lebanon. A lot of Palestinians are in Jordan. They don't claim free Jordan. They never ask the king to go down and to let the government to the Palestinian, and there was a big community. So, well, but it's very dangerous, this accusation, because it's a criminal accusation. So it will be so easy to use with majority of people who will never go to Palestine. Do you me? I made a long time ago. We made training for peace. We took students 2 weeks in a Christian village, in Palestinian village, and 2 weeks in a kibbutz. But I can tell you, during the 2 weeks in the Palestinian village in summer, it was not full of foreigners who came to help. Nobody came. Nobody came. It was empty. It was only local people. So I realized, are they really pro-Palestinian? Is it to be pro-Palestinian to demonstrate in the streets today or to help concretely? Me, I don't believe it's real. Because it's too much organized. You know, when you have the same slogan in Guatemala, same slogan in Washington, same slogan in Paris, in Berlin, in Spain, in Australia. So we say in Hebrew, Mime Shalem, we're paying behind to make such a campaign, such a unified campaign.
Yeah. All these opinions are usually something that we hear from, our friends, but you are an ally, and that must put you in a very strange position, no? Politically in France, how do you cope with criticism?
I don't care so much. Every Friday I was with the group, with the CRIF, in front of Trocadero. We were 300, 400 people every week, every Friday during 100 days, with hostage family speaking, with the Tikva, with the Marseillaise, the French hymn. And I am known to be engaged, Of course, my security is not total, but nobody can have total security in France when you are with the Jews. So uh, I would say it's a special path, but of course, surely people don't like me because they don't like the Jews. But I don't care. I also work with the Roma, with the Gypsies. So people don't like the Gypsies, so they don't like me. I work with the Yazidis. The Yazidis are considered second-class citizens in many countries. So but I don't care. I don't care, and I would say I learned to be proud, to not to give up, and I'm fighting. I'm not alone in my organization. In Yahad-In Unum, we are more than 10 people in Paris. We have 4 people in Guatemala. We have people in New York. We have people in Brussels. So we are not alone. I built an organization, and I would say I have strong supporters in the Jewish community, but also outside the Jewish community. I'm also a professor in Georgetown University, with a Catholic university. So I never met frontal opposition. But of course, when you see your name in a list of people accused to make a genocide, you understand where we are.
Yeah. And so, what advice would you give to Jews that are here on the call or allies, because we have a nice mix here? What advice would you give of what a person can do in the situation that we are now here?
I think first not to stay alone and to be connected with other people with the same will and to act. Not only to speak, not only to cry, but to act. I would say I was really, really in admiration with these 400 people every week in Paris. Every week, even if it was raining, if it was snowing, if it was sunny, they were here at noon. And for me, it was a strong admiration. And there were different people. There were also political people. There were artists. So that's the first thing, not to be alone. Secondly, not to listen all the news every day. You know, I always give this image. Me, I read the Bible. You know, when Noah built his boat, and because violence was too big, if you see well in the boat, there is no window, and so only one in the front to see the future. And I think in a situation like today, if you listen to the news every day, you can be so much traumatized and it will paralyze you. And it's also the goal because the media are repeating endlessly, endlessly, endlessly. You know, don't forget when it was 9/11, we saw two planes entering in the towers perhaps 300 times. So I not to listen to everything and to act for the future. That would be my advice, and also not to forget to pray because it's a complicated affair, and evil is very happy of the situation. So me, I think without the prayer, I would not be able to stand.
Amazing. Um, I wanted to ask you about something that we're trying at least to do with our Christian allies. We have a campaign that is called Jesus is Jewish, where we try to say this very simple truth about the fact that Jesus is Jewish because we are surrounded by people that say that he is Muslim or he is Palestinian, etc. What do you have to say about that?
I had to react because it was, I don't know, 1 year ago. People wanted to me to say that Jesus was a Palestinian, and I said that if Jesus wasn't have been living in 1942, he could have been sent to Auschwitz, and if he was the 7th of October near Gaza, he could be in a stage. And so a lot of it has been sent in many places that what I said that day. And so I think we have to stay strong. We, of course, it's as well, it's a temptation to completely whitewash the story, but I cannot say Jesus was not Jew. Everybody around was Jew. And and he speaks in synagogue. So I don't imagine a non-Jew going to speak in a synagogue. And so, but we are used to that. We are used to that. It has always been. Uh, but I think there are many Christians, you know, who are not so much pro Palestinian, pro Hamas. I would say perhaps pro Palestinian, but not pro Hamas, because we suffer a lot of the terrorists in many Islamic countries. You know, there is no country like you can go to Nigeria to see how many Christians are killed. You see the liberty to be Christian in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Iran. We are like ghosts. And even in Gaza, we are 400 Catholic only. We are like ghosts before the problem of today. So I say that because one day somebody told me Gaza is a Catholic Muslim country. I say, what are you speaking about? Do you imagine a priest in Hamas? So, but don't forget, people who are against you will stay against you. But there is a majority of people who say nothing and could understand that today Jews and Christians are in the same boat because they were shooting Jews in Australia. But if you read the next days, you will see a shooting of Christians somewhere. And that's extremely frequent, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, even before the Nigeria massacre started last year, we read in the Vatican site that 100,000 Christians every year are massacred in the Middle East, but no one is talking about it. And we see so many churches being burned, and now we had the incident of the priest in France, and it feels that we, the Jews, we have some kind of organized voice, collective voice, saying, "Come on, what's going on? This is not okay." But for the Christians, I feel like I don't recognize anything similar. Am I missing something? Is it because I'm not a Christian, so maybe I don't see it? But Do you think?
It depends where you go. When you
Okay.
go on the ground, you will see it. If you go to Lebanon and you begin to raise concrete questions, you will have the answers. But there are different schools of being Christian in a Muslim country. The Lebanese are surely the strongest voice, I would say. And when you saw the Pope coming to Lebanon, if you hear between the lines the position, and you saw publicly the voluntary thousand and thousand of Christian in TVs. So I understand your position, but don't me. I work in Muslim countries. Sometimes you are really when you are such a minority. If you begin to raise your hand, they will cut your hand. So don't forget the weight of violence that is in these countries when a minority begins to say something. It's not. They will not make a topic. I say that because one day Pope Benedict, not the Pope, but the Pope before, he said something about Islam, and the same day they killed a few sisters, Catholic sisters in Mogadishu. I say that because people are afraid of this violence, and but in me, I have been living in West Africa. Today, West Africa, country where I was, I cannot be again because it's under Islamist, and the churches are trying to do something. I am in contact with them, but they don't want I publish what happens because it will be worse.
So I was asking actually about the Christian in the West. For example, the Christians in France, they don't raise a voice. I don't see many demonstration of Christians in the street saying, stop killing the Christians, you know?
Yeah, it's not, I would say we are not the same at all, some not at all the same tradition, but concretely, and we don't think a demonstration in Paris will change something in Nigeria and in Afghanistan and in Pakistan and that. And don't forget that these people, me, I contact with them, with some minorities. They don't want we speak too much about them because it will be worse. Imagine if we say liberate the Christian from Pakistan, I'm sure we will kill a few of them the same day, the same day. So I understand your way. Don't forget, we are a strong, strong organization, and we don't do everything publicly. We are much more silent than the Jews. It doesn't mean we are weak, but we work in another way. I can tell you. Me, I will never forget. Me, I was in Burkina Faso when I was young. I was teaching mathematics, so it's a long time ago. I was not priest, and they wanted to declare Burkina Faso an Islamic countries. And suddenly the Pope, John Paul II, was going to Ivory Coast. He decided to land in our country and to celebrate publicly a mass with thousands and thousands of people. It was finished. The country has never been declared Islamic. But we will not publish that in the news.
I understand. That's good to know. We're gonna move to Q&A now. So everyone, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Just one last question before we move to Q&A. Could you please give us a tiny description of the things that you do in your organization? Because I don't think
There
that.
are different things. We are finishing to investigate about the mass killing of Jews during Holocaust, mass shootings. So actually, two teams are just finishing a travel to investigate in Poland. They just one chief of the team. She came to see me 5 minutes ago, and she said that we were investigating in villages where who saw the death march going out of Auschwitz, and they saw a lot of people dying and who are today buried in the village. And it's a part of history that has never been said because the Polish people have never been interviewed about that. And so that's what we are to do. We can find an interactive map in our website with the thousands of places where you can pinpoint and see exactly what happened and see the interview online because we have interviewed more than 90,000 people. On another side, we work in Iraq with the same thing about the killing and slavery of the Yazidi by ISIS. So we have two centers there because we cannot make an interview to heal them to psychologically and to try to save them at many levels. And we have different spots, I would say. And we open also the first Holocaust Museum in Guatemala. And so we are teaching Holocaust in Guatemala. Guatemala is the only country in Central America where it's an obligation to teach Holocaust, and it was nothing. So we are completely success story about that. Somebody, it's opening.
Yeah, I'm showing your website.
Yeah, you can try to open the interactive map. I think it's called In Evidence. This one, yeah. I think it's that. Yeah, all these points are killing sites that we found. So you see from Poland to Georgia, to suburb of Moscow.
Of mass shooting of Jews, that's what you're saying?
Mass shooting of Jews, yeah. If you keep pinpoint on anyone, you will see, and you will see the testimonies that are connected to it. And you can listen to the people speaking.
So this has huge importance in the
I wspomniała Pani, że w szkole znajdował się obóz. A co to był za obóz?
Ludzi zwozili i leczyli. I kobiety byli, i mężczyźni byli, więcej mężczyzn. Ogrodzone to było drutem kolczastym w koło. Ta szkoła była z drzewa takie. No i do pracy ich prowadzali ci, nie wiem, czy oni to tam SS-mani, czy jak oni się tam z karabinami w takich czarnych czapkach, pierogach takich. No i prowadzali, ja widziałam to. Oni drogi gdzieś tam budowali, bruki takie, wie pani, z kamieni. Dalej, także oni szli. Rano, przed wieczorem wracali, śpiewali, różne takie musieli śpiewać, szpadle takie na ramionach.
Guys, I'm gonna share the link in the chat, so please go to the website.
Many families are writing to us and asking in which mass grave is my grandma, in which mass grave is the rabbi. And so in this page, you have evidence, you have not only testimonies, but you have piece of archive, Soviet archive, German archive, to show it's true. Because we know that the deniers will say it never existed.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You do amazing work, and we are a big fan of your work. And if you ever need anything, please let us know. And just I want to say that we have a project for the Holocaust day in January to talk about the Christians that helped save the Jews during World War II. You know, the righteous among the nations. We have an organization that work to create museums, tiny museums, especially about that. Is that something that you're interested to be connected to?
Very interested.
Yeah? Okay, so I will connect you. Thank you so much, Father Desbois.